My name is Iftachi and Amit, and today we're going to talk about cybercrime. I had to put this just because someone forced me, so you can't read this. It's like in font 2 or something. This is the hacker me, all right? This is not the business me. I actually wear suits sometimes, but and this has nothing to do with what I'm actually working and doing, so don't blame me or attribute this to, in any shape or form, to my professional work. This is what we're going to talk about. I'm going to start by blabbering off about myself for like 60 seconds. We're going to talk about cyber war, attack and defense, cyber crime, attack and defense, and then we're going to try to connect them. You should have done some homework before coming in here, or if you haven't, I highly recommend you to do that after this talk, which is to see my DEF CON 17 talk, because this is like a post-text to what we found there. So what gives me the right to be here? I still haven't figured it out. I have computer science education, and that's it. I'm not a CISSP or any other certification. I'm a hacker. I'm a researcher. I used to manage research for a few security companies focusing on cybercrime, malware, network forensics, and stuff like that. I used to manage development, so I've been on that side too, of trying to build software rather than break it. And in my whatever spare time that I have, I do some reserve duty for the Israeli Air Force on, again, cyber stuff. I'm going to say a lot of cyber today because there's just not other terms to that work. I'm really going to try for this.
What's that? It's me belt Turkish. No, Tommy, there's a gun in your trousers. What is a gun doing in your trousers? It's for protection. Protection from what? The Germans?
Yeah. If you do catch me fucking around and just throwing FUD, throw something at me so I'll know I'm wrong, and please shout, because I can't hear everyone from here. If you got anything to say, if you want to go bullshit or something, just stand up and say it. I'll be more than happy to amend this presentation and add info into it or remove info from it as needed. So a quick recap. This talk is basically, wouldn't be here if it was for my research from last year. Last year I talked about, I was doing some research on cybercrime, and I try to figure out how it works from behind the scenes. Beyond the technology, beyond the malware and the polymorphism and the, I'm going to wait with the A-bomb, and all the technical stuff, just to see how it works from behind the scenes. Who is commissioned to write the software? Who's commissioned to run it? How does money get transferred between those entities? How an actual criminal organization is being managed? And this is where we kind of left off from last year, where we found, I'm sorry about the projection, it's a little dark, but what you should see here are some documents that we found on a criminally operated server that we somehow managed to get access to. Again, watch the talk from last year. That really didn't have a lot of commercial sense. If you're talking about cybercrime, you're always talking about how to make money. Well, you can't really sell this in the open market. These are maps that were in a presentation, in a PowerPoint presentation, denoting fighter target positions with their GPS coordinates on a satellite view. This is like a schedule for something. You can probably read it out later on the slides. And a lot of stuff that shouldn't have been really out there. And I consider this out there because the way we got access to that criminal server is horrendously stupid. All right, it's just like having it on the internet, which is how it was. This is finally declassified, so I don't have to skip through it like really quickly. That's a software that again was accessible or was stolen by this criminal organization. That software manages air, scenery, whatever situation for militaries that control, and it controls like the bombing and whatever. It's got a lot of nifty stuff that shouldn't be out there. But again, finally declassified. When I get some more information, track back the DEF CON 17 talk. It's a lot of fun. And at that point where we saw that kind of information on that server, we got hungry. Well, at least I got hungry. And one of my conclusions from last year's talk was, well, maybe we should try to kind of LoJack some of the information, or LoJack the server itself, because it kept moving. Which we actually did. We kind of fingerprinted the different files and the different data that was on the server and tried to figure out where it's going to pop up. And it popped up. And this is why we're all here. And I can talk in DEF CON again about beyond cybercrime, or where does cybercrime connect to beyond just the economic side of things. So, in order to do those connections, and the title is Cybercrime War Connecting the Dots, first let's visit what's cybercrime or cyber war. What is this? Raise of hands. Bullet hole. Excellent. This is what we're dealing with on a daily basis. Why am I saying this? Because you don't know what that bullet hole relates to. Is it part of a gangbang shootout in the streets of whatever, Detroit? Or is it bullet hole in some armored vehicle that was shot in the battlefield? We're dealing with the little fragments, with the little incidents, technical incidents all the time, with the malware, with the exploit, with the vulnerability. And in this talk, I'm going to try and do that zoom out and kind of take a look at the whole scenery. All right? Try to figure out if this belongs to cybercrime or cyber war, and what is really the connection between these two. So I was kind of looking at the definitions and what is cybercrime and cyber or war versus crime. And the bottom line is that it's not that different. It might have a little different financing, but it's still heavily financed. Management is a little different, but again, there's a lot of management, a lot of hierarchy, a lot of structure into how those things are being done. And when you go and look up what cyber war is, the Wikipedia definition, which I'm going to bash through this through the next 50 minutes, says cyber warfare, all knows of blah, 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 is the use of computers and the internet in conducting warfare in cyberspace. Now, this definition is all nice and dandy, but again, it's missing a critical thing from my perspective, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. And if you're here in the US, you probably know this guy that was quoted saying there is no cyber war. Who's this? Schmitty, right. It might have been a poor, slip of the tongue. It might have been politics or whatever it is. And there's always someone saying, well, there's no cyber war except when it happened in Estonia. Or, you know what, maybe Georgia. Or India, Google, Adobe. I mean, there's always an exception, and there's always someone that tries to break out of that mold because there isn't really a solid definition of what cyber war is and how to treat it in the modern day and age. And what we're going to try and do here is really make the connections between the dots. Really do connect the dots. We're going to look at some past events, cyber war events, and try to figure out where they came from, what was the MO, and how do these things connect in the global perspective. Cyber war is not only state versus state. All right, it's not only Kremlin versus DC. It's neither just spy versus spy. All right, there's a whole area for cyber espionage, which does happen all the time. And from my perspective, cyber espionage is the pretext of war. It's countries preparing for war, therefore they're conducting espionage on an active level to make sure that they're going to be ready when the actual war is going to happen. And just like any war, civilian targets are going to be hit. All right, there's going to be collateral damage at cyber war as well. We're not just talking about taking down a SCADA system here or taking down some military system over there.